let's start. So, today's topic is 10 things you shouldn't do as product manager. I wish to point you at one important thing. I'm not planning to share you the exact cases when I was making the mistakes, like in the estimating things, in providing the report. I tell what was the mistakes a bit more globally at the first part of the presentation, but later on we'll get a bit deeper, and I'll share you with exact tools I'm using day to day in my work, as well as I share one personal canvas I developed to prioritize in the tasks you have in your backlog as a product manager. So let's start. So, we'll talk today about a few things. Who the fuck is great? I'll tell you, we'll discuss a bit more interactive about the fuck-ups you did, because it's interesting for me. Also, I'll describe those 10 no's, which might help you not to do these fuck-ups again, or not to do any fuck-ups. And, as I mentioned, a few extra things which might make your life a bit easier. So, I'm a VP of Product Management right now in the MGID Incorporated. That's the biggest native advertising company in the world. I joined them quite recently. Before that, I was the CEO of the NDA-based startup, which I successfully grew and sold. So right now I work in the MGID, but from very beginning I was the ZO line, the ChromeTech division, and I was customer support agent, and I grew to the CMO and product director for the ChromeTech for the MacKeeper product. So let's try to be a bit more interactive and take 5 biggest mistakes you made on your current product manager job. So, anyone? Come on, don't be afraid, it's fine. Oh, come on, yeah.
Once I forgot that what users say don't equal what users do.
Absolutely, that's often
the
the
biggest mistake that I made.
Good, come on.
It was assuming that I know better what wants user than they do.
Okay, someone else?
Stop asking why you need this just before the first answer.
Good. Anyone else? Come on, be brave.
Started working on every big project without explaining to client what is everything and checking their expectations.
That is good. And the final one?
Or to make the definition of
Good. So, there are a lot of different mistakes. We can go through many of them, I'll tell you about many of them, but the things which are most often can appear in the product management job is making a bad research. For some reason the wording disappeared. Maybe it's because I transferred to the keynote, so maybe that might appear in future. I'll talk this through. No EOS. So what is EOS? That's a term from the credit companies. It means estimated outcome service, or estimated outcome survey, which means when you're developing any feature, you should absolutely, definitely know what you're going to get from it on the money level. Because that is quite important. Sometimes it might be not give money, but give some other things. I'll describe that a bit later. And of course, the poor POC, so proof of concept. So you created an idea, you said, yeah, I'm going to do it. But in fact, the idea sucks, and you never asked anyone about it, and that is why you wasted like $400,000 just to do something which no one's need. I did that once, so that's fine. And much more. There are a lot of them. The things which I adore, the things which I personally follow from the very beginning of my work, not intentionally, not because I was taught to, it is fail fast and learn fast. Because as faster you failed, as faster you can start going and doing something else. So, let's start. It is 10 conceptual mistakes I did, and you should not. First, the very first one, and the biggest one from my perspective. Your developers, your colleagues, your products, your designers, and other people you work with are just tools. They just code and do their job. Who think that it is so? Come on, be honest. Okay, there is a few honest people here in this room. Maybe more? So I don't think so.
You should rather say there are few people who didn't work as developers previously.
True story. But the thing is, I realized that's not that far ago, and I still think that is my biggest mistake in my career. Thinking that people are tools. They're not. All of them are creative. All of them are artists. And the developers, they are artists too. But no one understands that. Because it is easy to say that man is an artist, he drew a beautiful painting, but when the person developed a beautiful code, which doesn't need to be refactored, that is true masterpiece, and you should understand that. People are not those. As a product, that's the biggest mistake which stopped me from really getting results. Because if you act to the people like they're your tools, they say, fuck no, I won't help you, I won't do this for you, you should force me to. And that's a hard thing. So, make too short research. Every time I think about, well, there is a new feature. Every time I'm going in the car, or in the bus, or in the train, and think about something else, I write this down, and think, I should research that. There are two factors. First, I will forget about this, and the second one, I will still remember this and try to research about that. The worst, not the worst, but one of the problems I faced, it was making a very short research before starting developing and pushing the product to production. So, for instance, you just went through 5 forums and say, oh yeah, there is a problem there, I need to fix it. I know the exact solution what's going to fit, but it is not. You never know until you dig a bit deeper. Third one is trust your grandma or just yourself. What I mean, every time you get an idea, you come to someone to verify it. So you come to people and say, listen, I have an idea, what do you think about this? It's not just about the grandma, it might be your colleague, it might be someone from work, it might be the waitress in the restaurant you want, or something else, or someone else. But the thing is, getting the feedback from a non-relevant person, and the person who actually, sorry, but doesn't give a fuck, is getting the wrong insights and the wrong answers. And also, it is better to trust yourself, because you always a bit short, so you see the picture just from your perspective. In my case, it took a little more than 4 years to teach myself to have this helicopter view. So once you have a problem, you doesn't go to the conclusions directly, you go to the helicopter view and try to understand if it is real, if it is big, if it is really need to be fixed or addressed somewhere else. Fourth thing is using only one framework. Most of the product managers love different frameworks, canvases, methodologies, and that is good. The bad thing is that once they found the one they like and they really work for them, they start using only it. Once I made an interesting case. I had a big market, which I was consulting the startup company. They were thinking about starting the product to a specific market in a specific business model. The thing is, I had a lot of time at that period, and I made 6 different frameworks, researches on the problem they had, in 6 different methods. The thing is, the results I get were not quite similar, they were quite opposite. But the main thing is getting the main things from each canvases, getting the solutions and the answers from each canvases and combining them later gave me the answer and the really not just the MVP. We were ready to push the whole product to the market in very short terms because we knew exactly what customer needs in different segments. So what I'm saying is for you, don't forget that there are other methods to understand people. Don't be starved to find those methods. Be hungry for them. Because knowing and trying other methods helps a lot to understand your customers and your users better. So, the funniest thing I did when I was in the lower positions is, we should do it because our competitors are doing this. Who tried that? Who did that? Who was forced to do that? Okay, but sometimes your supervisor, your CEO, CMO, VP of product just come and say, do this, and he doesn't explain that. He just knows there are things on the market which are peers, you need to have them as a POP. Who knows what is POP?
Point of parity.
Absolutely. POP is point of parity. It's the things you already have in your product, but they already exist on the market, so you're absolutely the same. So sometimes you should create those features just to be fit to the market. But the main thing is, before just doing this, because the competitors have it, you should understand why competitors have it. Because it is quite possible that your competitor just have a huge A/B test to test in a new feature, and it's going to be vaporized from the main product in 3 months. But you saw that, things, they might have the results for that already. They have the reason to do that. I should do the same and see what it goes. But in fact, once you waste $50,000 on your developer's team and product manager's team to start these things going, and it has disappeared. Or worse, it doesn't work for your business, for your product. The sixth thing is being a professional rebel. What do I mean under this? Sometimes CEO, CMO, investors, which are worst, or aliens, I don't know, they come to you and say, do this right now. Who faced that? Good. But other things, sometimes they come in a different approach and saying, listen, there's a little feature we should do. Tweak here, tweak there, a little pop-up, little upsell, and then it will go. It's very short, it's very fast. Who faced that? A lot more, yeah. So the thing is, you need to have your guts to say no. Because if you're doing everything you've been told to do, you often move your product to the wrong direction. Because as a product, you should have the business view and view of the product itself. And sometimes, in my cases, I was forced at the very beginning to do everything I was told to. But after some period, I grow some balls, yeah, and comes to the investor and said, I won't do that, like at all. The only reason is, here's the calculation. It won't work, it won't fit. So the no should be not no because I'm bull. No. No should be data-driven as well as any decision, because no, it is a decision you should make and you should be responsible for it. I was in that place. So there are two types of companies who follow those rules. So let's say, who from you guys follow directly what your customer support asks you to? Anyone? So they say, I need this feature. I do this feature. Yeah? Come on, raise your hands. I want to see that. 3 people. That's fine. Still, who's not listening to your customer support at all? So they say, I need feature. I don't give a fuck, I need money. I will do other feature to monetize better. So who do this? Who doesn't listen to your support? I don't believe that. Stop bullshitting me. No one? Everyone is here listening to your support?
Hey, cheaters!
I think they are. But still, that is fine as well. The main message here is, you should be the middleman between the support and the business itself. Because support is your front line. You get everything you know about the problems from there first. From the QA, when you're deploying something, and from the customer support when it is already live. You should listen to them, but you should take the seats out of the pallets and realize what should be done and should not, and in what way, which is more important. Because sometimes they give you brilliant thing that they heard from some of customers, but in fact, you need to understand the real customer needs, except of what they just told you. That is why it's good to listen, and it's bad to be a slave to them. One of the problems I faced, it depends more on the people. There are different product managers. Part of them are process-oriented. I will write this business process, I will follow it, we'll do this, we'll follow the framework. It doesn't mean anything if framework doesn't work, we still follow the book. The second one is, I don't give a fuck about the rules, we run, and we do something. I'm from that category, I think. So, being process is not bad, but sometimes not for the product manager. You should be result-oriented to get results to your product, because you are the one responsible for it. I won't talk much about this. Just every of you think for a second in what category you are. And if you feel that right now you want to be a product manager, or you are a product manager, or you are a project manager who wish to go to the product manager, think about it. And think what you need to change in yourself to become result-oriented and goal-oriented instead of process-oriented. Thing I'm facing every single time I join or start consulting the new products, and I think many of you face that over your life when you join in the new team. Once you joined, you have the big experience of the past wins, and you wish to break everything and do as you already did, and it works. Don't. I did that a few times, and that was the big mistakes I made. Because every time you join a new team, or every time you're trying to consult a new team, there is a huge history of what they did before, and you don't give a shit about what they did before. You just think that your thoughts, your ideas will work better. But it is possible. Two things. First, they tried that even before you were born. Because companies are different. Some of them are 100 years old. And the second of all, it does not, the fact that you have some knowledge from the different business or different niche doesn't mean that it will work in this one. So you should understand this. Doing everything you know how to do right after you start the business is a bad approach. From my perspective, you should learn deeper what business is, how it works, very technically deeper. Realize what was done already, if there is a track of record, which is quite a rare thing, to be honest, because there, in the big companies, usually there are like from 3 to 5 people which are knowledge keepers who face that, and they know what was done. But some companies lost their knowledge keepers, and they have a track of record for the last 3 months. So that is why you can trash, crash, whatever you want. So they just don't know if it was done or not. So the 10th and the final one. Stop calling everything MVP. Your website is not the MVP. Your landing is not the MVP. The product is something which gives the user real value. Landing is not a real value. Change the icon is not a real value. Change the price is not a real value, actually. Just try to realize that MVP, it is something small, but at the same time, it is something very big. It is in your mind to know that it should be small, relevant, and useful for the user. But for the customer, for the person who going to use it, he should realize that it is not some sort of the, I don't know, spreadsheet or something which doesn't relevant to him. Every time the user use the product, use the MVP, he should feel that it is a full product. And the company who is behind this spent a lot of time doing it. Well, I know that because I was making those products which were waste of time. And that were my mistakes, I really understand them. You need to realize sometimes that creating an MVP is actually very close to creating the full product. Because during the run of the MVP, you might realize you don't need those features you did not develop. User does not need that. Because you might did the poor research, or your target audience might change because of the market and other things. So, all of you might say that, man, I knew that. And that is fine. I'm here just to share what I think it is important not to do. The main thing here that from this point I wish to move from the theoretical part about the mistakes and other things, about lying to media, to the technical and more practical part. I will tell you about one of the frameworks I developed, which helps me to prioritize the backlog I have and to realize what features should be done first. So, but before that, I'll tell you what I use to do those researches. So, for research, there is a list of the things, a bunch of tools which you might use and find useful for yourself. There is a usertesting.com, I think everyone knows that. UXCam, SurveyMonkey for the surveys, a lot of forums, because I still think that the messages in the forums can be relevant. Sometimes the thing is, from the customer support experience, I know that every person who calls to the customer support and being angry at something or wants something, it is just up to 5% of all your customers. So researching the web and researching the surveys or forums, you should realize that if the person says something about the pain, he might be the only one having this pain. It's not the fact that there are a lot of them, and one of the things you should verify is there are a lot of them. So then the final one, and the most important one, is the face-to-face interviews. It's Skype interviews, it's meeting with the real customers in real life, going all over the world to do that. I was in India twice already, once for the business, second one for the interviews. And that was quite fun, because you come in there knowing something of what fits your paradigm. But the fact is, when the people are different, a lot different, on the psychology level, on the mentality level from you are, you're doing the wrong decisions and doing the wrong consumptions, right? Assumptions, yeah. So what I mean is working with China or Japan or India and thinking, the market is bullshitting yourself. It is not. You should understand those people because they are quite different. How many times do you have left?
Around 12 minutes.
2, good. So I'll use 2 more minutes to describe the difference which you might face. So first is the China. Once you go to the business in China, you realize 2 things. First, you're no one if you don't have the contacts in China. So if you don't have the person in China who you paid a lot of money So they come to the right people and say, hello, I'm for that person, he is good, or something like that. I'm sorry for my accent, I'm not a Chinese. So they, if you don't have this person, your business is doomed on the China market. Japanese. It is fun to know that if there is a big company of the clerks and the leader, or not leader, but supervisor of those bunch of people bought wallets, Louis Vuitton, for instance, every single person in his company would like to have the same wallet. They will start working overnights, taking extra shifts, getting extra miles just to get the same wallet he has. And why it is important? Because knowing that you should target the right person in the right market might give you the customers you never thought you'll get. So you thought about getting to the market and getting everything, or some specific targeted area, right? But getting the personal approach to every customer, which are valuable in that market, giving them your product for free, might give you a lot. And there are a lot of things about the markets I can share you, because I tried to run a lot of them, but it's not. It's the case for the outdoor conversation. So the frameworks and canvases. That's the one I love and I use often. First one is VPD canvas, but it is very correlated with the previous talk in that room which Andrew had. I'm not sure if he's here. Yeah, no, not this Andrew. So he was talking about QFD. So QFD plus VPD is a very interesting approach, and it helps a lot to understand your users. Moreover, it is SVPG and BMC, Silicon Valley Product Canvas and Business Model Canvas. The thing is, you can learn about them on the web. There are a lot of examples of them, but they are quite relevant to the business of creating services and software. They are absolutely not relevant for hardware, for instance, because I tried to launch a few hardware products, they doesn't work. VPD works, they are not. Okay. Analytics is Google Analytics, Hotjar, Metrics, Quantcast. Someone knows what is Quantcast? No? Okay. That is the site which shows, get the agreement with the different top websites so they can share the data about their audience. Which means that basically you can try to go through the websites which share the details with the Quantcast and understand their audience interests and details, demographic details, without with a quite significantly right date, because I was testing that on a few sites. Yes?
It is legal only in United States,
Absolutely.
but not in the European Union.
Absolutely. But maybe, thank you for your comments. Yes, I work mostly for the US market. That is why that is relevant for me. Okay, the UX and prototypes. I was adoring the Velzimic, even if it is awful, still. I was taught to work in it, so I used to that. But also I'm trying to move to the Sketch, which is nicer, smoother. I tried the Extra, but it's too hard for me. But work in the prototyping, the things in the InVision, for the software services, the websites, and everything stuff. Communication is one of the most important things. I use it, Trello and Slack in the most. Of course, and I'm not talking about messengers, Skype, and other stuff. They're usually common, but with the team, Trello and Slack is quite useful for me. So, let's go to this metrics I mentioned about. Sometimes we face the problem that our product backlog is infinite. Who faced that? Who had the task in their backlog that 3 years old? 4 years old? 5 years old? 6 years old? Andrew, I love you. Because I do feel the same, I had the same a lot. So, sometimes you need to understand, are they relevant or not? Because the one thing which product managers is always facing is there is always not enough resources, right? And that is fine, because you need to understand, you need to learn to prioritize to see what's wrong, what's working, what is not. So, here is the metrics. How it works. There is 7 points. No, it is actually 8. I'll tell you about the metrics later on. Every feature you have should be getting the numbers, depends on the exact point you have. The important thing is that to get those insights, you usually doesn't need anyone except your team, which is quite awesome. So, pain of users can be understood by relevant and skillful product managers. Time savings can be done by both of them and developers. Users impacted, analytics. Upsell revenue from existing compliant users, analytic product managers and marketing guys. The revenue from new users, marketing guys and product guys. Competitive necessity, product managers, and that's it. They should know the competitors. Difficulty of workaround, your developers, they know how to do this. level of effort, they as well. So they realize that. So how that works? Usually you take one of the points, or a few if you need, about the exact feature. So you write the feature, you write the feature description, and you send a survey to the few people from your team who are really skilled and doing the job with their bare hands. So if, for instance, you have the CTO or team leader who know how to rule and manage the team, but he doesn't code himself for a few years, he's not the right recipient for this email. So usually you pick from 3 to 5. And you ask them to make a score for the exact feature, how they think it is important, from 1 to 5. When 1 is less important, 5 it is important. The features are quite easy to understand. First of all, that's the page of users. That's actually examples how you can understand and realize that. If this item, the feature you're developing, logging into many systems and duplicating efforts, you would choose a high rating here. So if you have the feature, so what, for instance, you got a constant feedback from the customers, from your product managers that is a pain, from the researchers, you should consider that as a high risk. If it is the low amount of feedbacks, or you think that pain is not that big, then it is a low. Time savings, the same thing is. You should, knowing your people, you can understand how many time a day they spend for the exact task. That might be internal task with the interfaces you use inside your system, or that might be the developing of something else which can be automated, and other things. You calculate average time, the exact average time, the exact time they waste on tasks spent on these tasks daily. Knowing their salaries, you can calculate the money revenue you lose every month, and understand that if the feature which you're going to deliver will ease these processes and will free people from those like monkey job or something, and it costs like the same or twice more, the cost would return in 3 months, and that is interesting. The percent of users impacted. Sometimes if you see that the feature you're delivering impacting all of your users, or a lot of them, that is interesting, that is important, but you need to know what of those people they're doing to you. Because if you will make more people sign up to your emails, but your email marketing doesn't work, that's not the real issue. You should understand the exact impact you'll get on the revenue, on the leads level. It's up to you. In my case, I'm writing that if you have 3 customers from 1,000, which would be affected by this feature, but these 3 customers is 80% of your revenue, you should do this. Upsell revenue from the existing customers. Everyone had the database of the customers they already have. Important to understand that in my perspective, it was often when I was coming to my CEO on the previous jobs and saying, I have an idea, let's go there, and that's the plan, that's the revenue, that's the outcome, we'll go. I got one answer. That doesn't fit our current business model, and we won't be able to use our current customers to monetize more. Who faced that? Brother, sister, come on. Yeah, that happens a lot. That's reasonable. That is quite fine to go. But you need to realize that it is extra metric that you could calculate to understand if the feature is valuable. So if you do the feature, and the feature will make 60% of your customers pay one more time for something, that is awesome. You should do this. The third one is revenue from the new customers. That's how many new customers or revenue from the new customers the feature will get. That is quite easy. So you can. I think the slides will be sent or shared later, so you can read that. I hope so, at least. Or you can write me. I will send you the contacts in the end. So I'll send you over. So one interesting thing is competitive necessity. That's what I mentioned before about do this because our competitors have it. That approach is a blind approach. You don't know why. When you think about competitive necessity, you should think what features the competitor have, and they is relevant to keep your business going in the next few years. So for instance, if you don't need that right now, but will need it in a year or so, you should develop it. Because if you will start developing it in a year, you're late, and you're just dropping your positions from the top. 2 other things is difficulty workaround. If this item can be 100% accomplished manually, you will choose a low rating here, so 1 instead of 5. In Russian, there is a word for this type of metrics. Можем ли мы впилить косты? So if we can do this, that actually a low rating. But sometimes you could not do that because if the time spent on this косты is equal is the time spent on the whole new feature. The last one is just the pure digits. So you have scale from 1 to 5. You can think how much time would take for the developers to do it, or not to developers, but the whole team. So you just calculate that accordingly. One thing which you might notice from this thing, that the digits are combined in the specific parameter, and after that you can realize if it is good or not. Up to 7, the scale is from 1 to 5. So 1 is not important, 5 is very important. In the last one, level of effort, 1 is the shortest time you should go, so 1 is good, 5 is bad. Or not bad, but longer. So you can calculate that separately, like vice versa. Okay, so thank you for listening.